Cortes, and I'm a critic, and welcome back. We're continuing our deep dive into the NFL draft recap as we are now going to the South. And we're going to the team that probably should have kept their first round pick, or the first overall pick, and therefore we would ask the question, what would they have done? Would they have traded Young away and got Caleb Williams? I guess I'm kind of spoiling the lead, but today we're talking about the Carolina Panthers. And that's the question, do they regret their decisions? And have this draft class made them feel a little bit more confident moving forward? Maybe. Carolina, a team that sadly is still being viewed as that investment with Chicago. It doesn't look pretty good right now, especially when Chicago is currently viewed as contenders, not by me, but by others. I just hit my microphone. By others. And Carolina is looking like they're potentially going to look at another top 5 overall pick in next year's draft after this year when they probably should have been, the number 1 pick already in the draft. So we'll see how much of that, just crackerjack job out there in Carolina. But let's see if they can help solidify the Bryce Young draft selection by giving him weapon. They get some receivers in the offseason. They got some veteran defensive player to help solidify the defensive side. Let's see how they've done this year's draft class to make it. So, without burying the lead here, they got back to the first round with a 32nd selection. And with the 32nd pick in the 2024 NFL Draft, the Carolina Panthers selected Xavier Legette, wide receiver, South Carolina. It is nice to see when teams get drafted and they go to the same thing, like Aiden Hutchinson from Michigan going to Detroit. That seems like a very poetic. Joe Burrow was Ohio guy, went to LSU, but then he got to go back to Ohio for the Bengals. So it's a nice, happy story. And seeing Xavier pretty much staying close to home, at least collegiately, in his career, and staying in the Carolina area. So that's kind of nice, right? It's nice. We're all friends here. We loved it. We loved it very much. So it's nice, Carolina, even though we know 2 states share 1 team, so we'll call that as it is. But I am still pretty surprised that Xavier got picked up in the first round, similar to what I felt about Ricky being selected by the 49ers. It just feels like I thought Coleman and Mitchell, when the other Texas guy, Mitchell, was probably more viewed as receiving quality, but they went with Xavier. But then again, I felt the same way about Alshon Jeffrey when he got picked up out of South Carolina, Deebo Samuels out of South Carolina, and they both have, I think they have done relatively well. I mean, both went to Super Bowl, one. One is probably trying to get one himself after multiple attempts. Good luck, Deebo. So maybe South Carolina is like the quiet receiver class. They got some, gems in it. Not just saying, hey, look at me, I played South Carolina, I'm a receiver, give me some credit. Maybe there's something there in South Carolina we're not paying attention to. Then maybe they are secretly developing great wide receivers, but for whatever reason, we never noticed them in college because Georgia takes all the press. Maybe. I could be completely wrong in speculating. But they got a good receiver here to come with their receiving core. This is something else good to give Bryce Young someone to throw to. Someone to eventually. He's obviously going to be a now day 1 starter for obvious reasons. Because all the receivers they got on the roster, no one really screams as we got a legitimate. Everyone else seems like has yet to proven as solidified as they would like to. Some are veterans from other teams. And some are aging veterans from other teams. So we'll see how that goes, but right now, Xavier coming into Carolina is the right step forward to giving Young a new toy. Speaking of new toys, to help with that support, with the 46th pick in the 2024 NFL Draft in the second round, the Carolina Panthers select Jonathan Brooks, running back, Texas. I like this pick, even though I feel like they are probably still regretting the letting go of Foreman, the running back they had before, letting him go. Brooks come in, I feel like is a much more dominant downhill runner. I'm getting some vibes when I see this guy run, as he's solid. He's solid. Not like I'm drawing a blank. I'm drawing a blank on how I'm feeling Jonathan Brooks. But Jonathan Brooks, he feels like a downhill runner. He will, muscle his way through. I kind of like him more in the running back side as an inside runner compared to his teammate Bijan Robinson, who also plays in the NFC South. So I guess we'll be teammates versus teammates in that. Whoever runs the ball more buys dinner. Haha. Jonathan Brooks, I feel more like in between the tackles, downhill runner, wear your defensive down, and eventually, counter with a play action, or just make wear down, eat the clock, score points, and just hold off the ball. That's what Jonathan Brooks feels to me. I think the Miles Sanders experiment failed miserably, and Chuba Hubbard has been very patient in pretty much taking all these running backs that keep coming in, and he keeps getting pushed somehow down the depth chart for whatever reason. But when he gets opportunity, he has proven, I think now officially, he is now the day one starter with no objections, no questions, no maybes, no not. And with Brooks coming in as a 1-2 punch, this running back core could be very helpful to Bryce Young's development, especially if there are still question marks going into this second year, and of course the dreaded sophomore slump. How much lower can the sophomore slump offer to a young quarterback that has had a 2-win season his rookie year? That's telling, in my humble opinion. That just feels very telling. Then we had enough for offense. Let's go with the defensive side, because I believe the Carolina Panthers defense had an underappreciated defense, even though they didn't have the record to prove, but statistically they were pretty formidable. With the 72nd pick in the 2024 NFL Draft, in the third round, the Carolina Panthers selected Trevin Wallace, linebacker, Kentucky. Now, I do have a question, by the way. It wasn't obvious. Jonathan Brooks is a now. Sticker proves anyway. Wallace is a now. To my people in Carolina, this is a question directly to you. How all of you are feeling about Shaq Thompson, the linebacker you currently have right now? How do you guys feel? Feeling good? Feeling good? Feeling good? You feeling good about him? Feeling good? Feeling good? I look at Wallace as a potential guy who's going to dethrone Shaq. I'm sorry. I see he's currently viewed as the backup behind Shaq, but for whatever reason, I just feel like I don't know. When it comes to Carolina's linebacking core, I still remember Davis and Kuechly. I still remember those two guys being a dominant force. Shaq, I remember his draft status and his versatility, and he committed to defense when he had opportunity to different position. I don't know. I see him there. But there are times where I like, oh yeah, he's still there. So, Carolina Panther fans out there, how do you guys feel about Shaq? Because Wallace feels like he's coming in looking to take his job, especially when he's projected to be considered behind. You did get Jose Jewell from Denver to join your ranks, so you have your linebacking core. You got a South Carolina guy coming back home to Carolina with Jadeveon Clowney, but he's more as your edge rusher to sack quarterbacks. So hopefully get that thing back rolling. So I don't know, guys. I mean, do you guys feel like Wallace is potentially going to come in and take Shaq's job, or is he supposed to be kind of like a help rotation? Like what? Because I feel like Wallace is coming in to take Shaq's job. I feel that he's coming in to dethrone him for whatever reason. I just get that vibe with this guy, because I feel like if he's interior linebacking core, I just feel like why is he considered to be projected as a backup behind Shaq and not behind Jewell? Maybe I'm just overanalyzing, but I just want to ask Carolina fan, how do you guys feel about Shaq? Is Shaq still solid in your defensive mind? Or do you feel like that, he's on his last leg? Hell, I should know. As a Buccaneer fan, we let Devin White go. And he was very vital to us, and it is disappointing to see a guy that you felt was a big captain for the reason why you guys won the Super Bowl, and then you just see him what happened kind of moment. You literally see like something happened. So, Carolina fans, I hope you're happy with Wallace. And do you guys feel about Shaq? That's why I have him as a now. Then, in the fourth round, with the 101st pick in the 2024 NFL Draft, the Carolina Panthers selected Ja'Tavion Sanders, tight end, Texas. Steal. This guy feels like a steal to me. I feel like tight ends are the best friends of young quarterbacks everywhere. We have seen great tandem of quarterback in recent years. Lamar Jackson to Andrews, Kelsey and Mahomes, Brady and Gronk. We have seen a lot of great tight ends being utilized more effectively. I mean, even go back further to Phillip Rivers and Antonio Gates, Drew Brees and Jimmy Graham. Maybe you can say Tony Romo and Jason Witten. You can maybe make that argument there about that wide receiver tandem crew between those two. I mean, the quarterback and tight end tandem group. So I feel like Sanders is going to come in and make a splash very, very quickly. I understand that Treble is still your viewed as the starter, but I will not be surprised if Sanders start getting some playing time. I mean, Sanders was on a Texas team that had 3 receivers that were so effective, drafted already in the NFL, and I just feel like he was like the unsung hero. Like, hey guys, I'm still here, but all the receivers were also so great that maybe he didn't get the attention he probably wanted to or deserved. So I feel like him going to Carolina, very fresh legs, not a lot of wear and tear on his body. I just feel like Sanders could be a steal. Hell, he might be the leading. He might have the most catches by the end of this upcoming season. I'm being sincere because I feel like tight ends are the quarterback safety valve, and maybe if Young can get it, Sanders will be closer to get those yards. So keep an eye. I'm feeling very confident that Sanders could be a steal for the Carolina Panthers. That he may be even more valuable than Xavier. No disrespect to Xavier. Xavier's a deep threat receiver, definitely with speed and outside receptioning. But Sanders is a guy I really think Carolina needs to look at him and think, if this guy blows up, you should not be surprised if he, balls out. Then we go to the 5th round with the 157th pick in the 2024 NFL Draft. The Carolina Panthers select Shaw Smith-Wade, cornerback, Washington State. Now, looking at the Carolina's second department, I can't help but bring up Josh Norman, because I feel like ever since Josh Norman left, the secondary just never seemed to be that scary, at least to me. The secondary of the Carolina Panthers never seemed to be like as formidable or as threatening as when Josh Norman was there. Yes, I know that they botched his franchise tag and went to Washington, and Josh Norman became no more than a Derrick Henry meme for the rest of his eternity of life in football. I get that. But when they had Josh Norman, for some reason, that whole secondary just felt like they were, just a pack of wolves, just hopping on the football, making tackles, making receivers feel, sluggish and lackluster. It just felt that way. They had Bradbury, but he's gone to better pastures, say or nay, or what do you say about that? Because Carolina, to me, I mean, yes, they got Horn, but I don't know. Just Carolina secondary just feels like it's still not as once it was great. I feel like the linebacking core and the defensive line is fine. The secondary just seems a little bit, a couple of holes. Feels a little bit, feels kind of here. But looking at Wade, he is currently being viewed as the interesting. He's viewed as a 3rd stringer currently behind the Don Jackson and the Troy Hill of it. But young defensive back corner makes splash on special teams, and depending on how the season goes, could get some playing time depending on the situation calls for it. So maybe not right away. We'll make an impact right away. Get some jobs on special teams. But keep an eye. The season's a very long season nowadays. There's a lot of great receivers in the NFC South. And who knows, maybe get called up sooner rather than later to make some plays. We're in my week 10, week 13 possibly. So keep an eye on that. In the 6th round with the 200th pick in the 2024 NFL Draft, the Carolina Panthers selected Jaden Crumdy, defensive tackle, Mississippi State. Now, defensive tackles in a 3-4 is, I think it's a little bit complicated than some. There are defensive ends in 3-4s, but 9 times out of 10, most defensive ends are just probably the more athletic defensive tackles, or just slower defensive ends. Because I feel like it's the outside linebackers who are just your very athletic defensive ends, like Jadrian Clowney, who is a defensive end, but technically now we have adapted to a new position called the edge, thanks to people like Khalil Mack and Von Miller and Micah Parson, that yes, they're considered linebackers, but they get TJ Watt, but they get sacks like the defensive ends of the old days, like Jared Allen and JJ Watt and Michael Strahan, and Simeon Rice. They were the guy that got all the sacks. They got all the sacks. They were the one that had sack records broken by them. But now in today's NFL, we have just very athletic defensive ends, who are basically outside linebackers, coming in and now getting all the sack tension, while the interior defensive end are there to plug holes, grab grass, and, in situations called for it, sack the quarterback and prevent them from escaping the pocket in case the edge rushers don't get to it. So in that regard, I mean, Crum is being viewed as a nose guard, with the outside of Robinson and Brown being the defensive end. I mean, Derek Brown is technically a defensive tackle, But because of 3-4 defense, he's now being labeled as a defensive end, even though we all know he'd probably be more formidable in a 4-3 defense as an interior defensive tackle. So we'll see how much playing time he gets. Rotation is a big thing. Interior nose guard. So I'm just gonna say he may just be unable to get rotation in time, and he might ride the bench his whole rookie season, and maybe he might have to find success outside of Carolina. And then in the Panthers, at least we'll see what he can do. Maybe make some splashing in preseason, and maybe he gets better up, and maybe fights his way for the backup position, get more rotation. We'll see. But it just feels like a lot of a stretch to see if he can make the roster when he's already so far down in a position that feels that it's built for something different. Then with the last pick in the 7th round, the 240th pick in the 2024 NFL Draft, the Carolina Panthers selected Michael Barrett, linebacker, Michigan. Another national championship contributor in the Michigan Wolverines. That means he'll be a day one starter. No, that will be completely biased. But sometimes I feel like a player understanding what it takes to win could be more impactful to a team, especially like Carolina, who sadly has had a very long stretch of losing season, and last year was probably more embarrassing than anyone could imagine. So having that could potentially be a nice motivation for the young men and the team to get themselves going. As for positioning, he's currently being viewed as the 3rd stringer, so he could potentially be viewed as a rotational player, special teams contributor. But because of the 3-4 defense, there are 2 inside linebackers. I feel like that offers more depth chart potential. So Barrett could probably make it in as an interior defensive, as an interior inside linebacker than most. So maybe later might be the way to go. Maybe later might be the position, the place for him. Maybe the season progress, especially. Like I said, I have a little bit of doubt of Shaq Thomas, but that's just me as a non-Carolina Panther fan noticing. So you tell me, Carolina faithful. But keep an eye on Barrett. He has been on a national championship team. Does that mean anything? I feel like it has some sense of confidence. And maybe that confidence and his determination factor can get him a roster spot. We'll see. We'll see. Keep an eye on him. So that is the Carolina Panthers. What is my grade for them overall? It is obviously a not yet. If any of you really believe Carolina Panthers has a chance to be a 9-win team and somehow trying to find a way to sneak themselves into the playoffs as a 7th seed, then I would like to know what magic potion did you drink to make that type of delusional statement. I still feel like Carolina, the Bryce Young thing, as bad as it was, I feel like it was a major step back, that I feel like they're just almost starting from scratch again. The firing of the head coach in his first year, the way the team just fell apart. You know, they lost Brian Burns, their defense losing one of their biggest captains. And the time you keep reminding yourself, you could have 2 first-round picks from the Rams if you would have just said yes, and you didn't. And now you give him to, now he's with the Giants, and the Giants might have more upside than you guys do. But for me, Carolina, not yet. I believe they're going to win more than 2 games. I believe. If they win 2 games only for the 2nd year in a row, that's going to be hard to believe, honestly. But I have no feelings of them even remotely getting close to even 7th seed, final spot, 9-win season. 7 wins might be their ceiling moving forward, but we'll see what preseason do. Maybe preseason will make me feel more confident moving forward. Maybe they could be the surprise team, go from last to first, as many division teams have done in the past. It will be a great upside, it'll be a great story, but right now, not yet, Carolina. So, that is the Carolina Panthers. Now we're going to go down, well, not really down, we're going to go slightly to the west, and we're going to go talk to them boys in Atlanta as we talk about what happened. What happened? What happened? I want to know. So that's going to be a very fun video. But until next time, I'm Cortez, and I'm a critic. Thank you so very much for watching.